Now, I would like to describe a clinical situation which illustrates a number of these points. I'd like to preface this with an explanation, because this was a situation in which I did not go immediately into the death issue. As a visiting professor in another medical school, I had talked from 9 o'clock in the morning until 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Initially, I'd been scheduled to talk from 9 to 12 and then watch their staff. But day ended with me talking from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., even talking while we had sandwiches for lunch. At 3 p.m., the director announced we would watch an interview with a family. I thought this was my chance to watch them work, and I was delighted to be off stage for a bit of rest. As we walked to the large one-way viewing room, I heard that this was a father and mother in their 40s who had been seen weekly for about 18 months about a problem in a teenage daughter hospitalized in an institution connected with a medical school. Then I heard the mother had a cancer that a surgeon had told the father. The father had told the psychotherapist, and the mother didn't know about it. And then I began to get the notion that they wanted me to interview this family. Well, I had hoped to watch them, and certainly I didn't want to get involved in this kind of an interview, since it was only an hour and a half till I had to catch a plane. I went to the viewing room and took a seat. The director said the family expected me to be in the interviewing room with the family. I readily agreed, thinking these would be better seats and it would be all right with me. Once in the interviewing room, I sat to one side expecting to watch, and then I learned from the family's therapist, who was a woman social worker, who said the family had heard about me and expected to be interviewed by me. I was caught. Here I was in possession of information about this woman, and it would be difficult and out of character for me to not deal with this issue, but I wondered if I dare touch it, since I would be leaving so soon after the interview and would not be available for any follow-up interviews if they were needed. So in the few moments while I moved from the side seat to the interviewing chair, I was wondering how in the world I would handle this. I began the interview with questions about the daughter, sort of hesitating to open this issue at this interview. As the session went along, kind of awkward and difficult and sticky, I decided that the issue had to be discussed. So about 10 minutes out, I asked the mother why she thought her surgeon and the family and others had not told her about her cancer. Without even a slight hesitation, she said calmly, "I think they're afraid. I know I have a cancer. I've known it some time. Before that, I feared it, and when they told me it was not cancer, at first I believed them, and that it was not my imagination. Now I know it's a cancer, and when I ask them and they say no, what does it mean? It either means they're liars or I'm crazy, and I know I'm not crazy." Then she went into details about her feelings. "I'm not afraid to die. My main reason for wanting to live would be to see my sick daughter recover enough to have a life for herself. I hate the thoughts of leaving her the responsibility of my husband. But for me, I'm not afraid." She and I were the calmest people in the room. She spoke with deep feeling but few tears. Her therapist sitting alongside was moved to tears. Her husband became joking and kidding, making jokes about her vivid imagination. A few comments to him about interrupting his wife's serious thoughts about death was enough to get him to settle down and to enable her to keep talking. It was my impression that if he kept on kidding, she would have to interrupt her talk. The wife continued, saying, "This is the loneliest life in the world. Here I am knowing I'm going to die, and not knowing how much more time I have, and I can't talk to anyone about it. When I try to talk to my surgeon, he says I do not have a cancer. When I try to talk to my husband, he makes jokes about it. My sessions here are to talk about my daughter and not me. I'm cut off from everyone. Each morning I feel terrible. The first thing I do is look at my eyes in the mirror to see if I have metastases of the liver. Then I try to act cheerful until my husband goes to work because I don't want to upset him. Then I'm alone with my thoughts all day, just crying and thinking. Then I try to pull myself together before my husband comes home. I don't know how much longer I can stand this pretending. I wish I could die soon and not have to pretend anymore. But I don't want to upset my husband and daughter." Then she went into some background thoughts about death. As a little girl, she used to feel hurt to see people walk on other people's graves. From that time, she had wished that when she died, she could be buried in a mausoleum so people couldn't walk on her grave. But, she said, we're poor people. We could never afford a mausoleum. And I know when I die, I'll be buried in another grave like the rest. The technical problem, as I saw it in the few minutes I had left, was to try to open the relationship system so this woman could have someone with whom she could talk. Some time went to trying to help open the system between the husband and the wife. He said he knew his wife had a malignancy, and it was so hard for him to think about her dying, but he would try to understand. My guess would be that it would be difficult for that relationship to open up very much, but it would be worth a try. The main ally was the regular therapist, who said she had known about the malignancy, but she had been waiting on the wife to bring up the subject. At the end of the interview, the wife said, smiling through some tears, "We've sure spent an hour walking around on my grave, haven't we?" As I said goodbye to them in the hall, the wife said, "When you go back home tonight, please thank Washington for sending you here today." The less expressive husband said, "We're both grateful."